Night fell over the small town of Eldoria like a heavy, suffocating shroud. The narrow streets, lined with old mansions whose facades were peeling, echoed only with the whisper of the cold wind sweeping dried leaves across the uneven pavement. At the town center stood the old theater, a relic of the 19th century, once the pride of the local elite, now abandoned and shrouded in dark legends. The elders said that behind the last curtain of the main stage, something unnameable awaited. Those foolish enough to venture there, Elena Vasquez, a 28-year-old paranormal investigator, had arrived in town only 2 days earlier, with her curly black hair tied back in a practical ponytail, piercing brown eyes, and a backpack filled with equipment recorders, infrared cameras. And electromagnetic field detectors was the epitome of modern determination facing ancient. Supernatural tales. Elena didn't believe in ghosts to her. It was all tricks of the mind, echoes of the past, all elaborate hoaxes. But the anonymous email she had received, promising irrefutable evidence of a real haunting in the old theater, intrigued her enough to make the trip. "You don't want to know what's behind the last curtain," the message read, signed only as a forgotten spectator. Elena had laughed when she first read it, but now, standing before the theater's main entrance, its Gothic facade strangled by dead vines, an involuntary shiver crawled up her spine. The building seemed alive, breathing through the cracks of its broken windows, with a flashlight in her left hand and the rusted key reluctantly given by the mayor after much insistence in her right. Elena turned the doorknob. The creak echoed like a dying groan, and the stale air of mold and dust engulfed her instantly. She switched on the shoulder-mounted camera and began recording, entering Eldoria's old theater. 2,247 hours, ambient temperature 12 degrees Celsius. No signs of paranormal activity so far. She muttered into the recorder. The foyer was a vast hall, with chandeliers hanging like skeletal remains of crystal, covered in cobwebs. Faded posters of past performances adorned the walls. The tragedy of Ophelia, shadows on stage. The final act. Elena moved cautiously, her footsteps echoing on the rotting wooden floor. She didn't know it yet, but this night would mark the beginning of a nightmare that would test the very limits of her sanity. She climbed the spiral staircase leading to the upper balconies. Each step groaned in protest. At the top, she found a door slightly ajar, leading to a narrow corridor lined with numbered doors, the old dressing rooms. The air was heavier, here saturated with a metallic stench, like dried blood mixed with rancid perfume. She opened the first door to the right. The small room held a cracked mirror, a dust-covered vanity, and a chair knocked aside as if someone had left in a rush. On the vanity lay a yellow diary that caught her eye. Elena picked it up, blew the dust away, and leafed through its pages. The entries were dated 1897. "Today, we rehearsed the final act. The red curtain feels heavier each day. I heard the whispers again, calling my name. Could it just be the wind?" It was written by Amelia Thorne, the lead actress of that era. Elena frowned. Interesting. Likely hallucinations from toxic gases in the old building, she thought. But as she turned the page, a sentence made her pause behind the last curtain. "He waits, the eternal director. He promised me immortality on stage. But the price is terrible." A sudden noise made her spin around, a whisper, faint and overlapping, like voices from a distant conversation. Elena switched on the EMF detector. The needle shot into the red, signaling a strong energy presence, recording auditory anomaly. "Possible electrical interference," she said, trying to steady her voice. Leaving the dressing room, she followed the whispers down the corridor, where a staircase descended into the basement, the heart of the theater, where sets and costumes were stored. She stepped carefully, her flashlight slicing through the darkness. In the basement, piles of old crates and faceless mannequins greeted her. One, dressed in a torn harlequin costume, seemed to lean forward, as if watching. Elena approached an open trunk inside. Stacks of yellowed letters. She picked one at. Random dearest Amelia, do not go to the final rehearsal. The director is not human. He came from the shadows beyond the stage. Signed your brother. Elias. The whispers grew louder. Clearer now, Elena. Come. The show must go on. She froze. How did they know her name? Impossible. Must be a trick. She muttered, though her heart was racing. She lifted her camera, scanning the room. On the screen, for just a second, a dark silhouette appeared behind a mannequinal. Hooded, with eyes glowing like embers, Elena stumbled back, tripping over a crate. Her flashlight rolled across the floor, illuminating the far wall, scrawled. In red chalk were the words behind the last curtain. The truth bleeds. Back upstairs, Elena made her way to the stage. The auditorium was vast. Rows of red seats blanketed in dust. Like a sea of dried blood, the stage loomed above. Heavy burgundy curtains hanging in layers, the first, the second, and at the very back, the last, separating the visible from the hidden. She climbed the side steps. The boards creaking beneath her feet. At the center of the stage, an old spotlight stood rusted, pointing at nothing. Out of curiosity, Elena turned it on. A weak, yellowish beam flickered to life, stretching shadows across the floor. Audio test. If anything is here, manifest yourself, she said, activating the EVP recorder. At first, silence. Then, a raspy voice, like the wind itself whispering welcome to the show. Elena. Act 1 begins now. Her throat tightened. No one was there, yet the curtains quivered as if unseen hands tugged at them. Elena approached the first curtain, pulling it aside. Behind it, painted sets of gloomy forests and ruined castles. Second, curtain props, including a toy guillotine and grotesque masks. Third, a large antique mirror framed in tarnished gold. Elena's reflection stared back, but something was wrong. A reflection blinked independently, and a sinister smile crept across its lips. What the hell? ... She whispered, touching the glass. It was icy cold. The reflection raised its hand, reaching to pull her inside. She staggered back, breath short. The whispers returned. Multi-plebnums left her. Sobs. Amelia. Elias. Elena. Join us. She rushed to the edge of the stage. But the auditorium lights flicked on by themselves. In the seats, vague figures began to take shape of phantom spectators in Victorian attire, applauding in silence. This isn't real. Some kind of mass. Hypnosis or illusion, she told herself. But as she turned back, the last curtain parted slightly, revealing a darkness so absolute it seemed to swallow light, determined to uncover the truth. Elena searched further, finding a hidden archive room behind a false shelf in the foyer. Inside were piles of old newspapers and theater records. 1898 headline read: Tragedy, the old theater actress disappears during final performance. The article described how Amelia Thorne vanished behind the last curtain during the play The Director of Shadows. Her brother Elias swore he saw a hooded figure drag her into the darkness. He tried to follow, but was never seen again. The theater closed shortly after, cursed by rumors of hauntings. Another clipping: spectators report horrifying visions. One man claims to have seen faces melting into the curtains. Elena photographed everything. There's a pattern. Maybe a serial killer using the theater as cover. But as she left the room, a cold breeze enveloped her. Papers scattered, and a voice echoed, "You are close, Elena, but the price of truth is high." She ran back to the stage. The shadowy spectators were now clear pale faces. Hollow eyes, mouths stretched in silent screams. The last curtain opened on its own, revealing a narrow hallway that shouldn't exist. Blueprints showed nothing but a solid wall. Heart pounding. Elena stepped inside. The corridor stretched endlessly, its walls lined with curtains rippling like waves. Each step echoed unnaturally, as though space itself was distorting. She touched one curtain. Behind it, a vision Amelia on stage in 1897, reciting her lines, until skeletal hands dragged her into darkness. Another curtain, Elias confronting the director, an immense figure, face veiled in shadow, voice a guttural roar. The stage demands sacrifices. Your sister will be eternal. Elena pressed on, cold sweat, dripping. The visions grew personal. Her childhood, her mother's death in a car accident, which she had always blamed herself for, distracted in the backseat. Stop this, she screamed. But the curtains laughed, whispering buried secrets. At the end of the corridor, a door. She opened it, stepping into a circular chamber true behind the last curtain. It was a miniature amphitheater, the seats occupied by mummified corpses, actors and spectators of the past, their dry eyes fixed on the center, where a hooded figure sat on a throne of bones. The show must go on, Elena, said the director, his voice echoing as 1,000 voices at once. His hood fell back, revealing a grotesque patchwork for sea pieces of Amelia, Elias, and countless others stitched together in a quilt of horror. He explained he was an ancient entity, feeding on fear and souls upon the stage. The theater was his portal, the last curtain his maw. Elena fought, but tendrils of shadow coiled around her. She saw visions of her future trapped forever, performing for an audience of the dead. With a final desperate effort, she pulled a flash grenade from her pack, igniting it. The blinding burst seared the chamber, making the entity howl. Elena broke free, sprinting back through the collapsing corridor, tearing through curtains. She stumbled out of the theater, the building trembling as if alive. Outside, dawn was breaking. She locked the doors, but knew the director awaited his next fool years later. Elena recounted her story at lectures, but she never again stepped inside a theater. And in Eldoria, the old theater still stands, whispering to passers-by, come see what lies behind the last curtain.